Mics are on?
Which ones what ones are we on now? Okay. I'm just putting them all up for now because I'm not sure which ones we're on.
How's it sound, Christine? We're on.
We're good. You know
Excellent.
what it means?
Hello, everyone.
It means we haven't been here in a while.
We are a little out of practice here at the Dear Dad Show on May 9th.
It is May 9th. It is still 2013. It is still Thursday, and we are actually live in the studio.
And we are back from our self-imposed hiatus, I guess as you want to call it.
I guess you could call it that.
A lot of things has happened since our last show.
Yeah.
And we are happy to be back.
We are.
And we'll talk a little bit about those, and we'll talk about some new things, and we've got a little bit of our agenda laid out a little bit.
I mean, we were just sitting here trying to figure out what's happened since our last show.
And there's so much you just couldn't think of it all.
Yeah, little things have brought up bigger ideas and all different stuff that's happened. And I mean, the reason we weren't here is one thing happened after another, and between our jobs and our family and life, we
were doing dad things.
We're doing everything, yeah.
We were talking a little bit about that on the ride out here, about how our jobs and one of the nicest jobs we have is being a dad. That's what you were saying, right?
That's my favorite job.
That's your favorite job.
That's my favorite job.
And at times it is a job.
Yes,
right?
it is a job.
It's just like a job. You have to allow time for it. Okay. Sometimes it's rewarding. Sometimes it's not so rewarding.
Right.
It's a job, but it's a good job to have. It's
and
one
I
wouldn't want to be without.
I agree, and I think of maybe that's a good way that parents should look at it, that it is a job, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. But if you view being a parent as a job,
the word job does not have a negative connotation.
No, because but what is it? If it's a job, what does that mean? It means you have to prepare. It means you have to do it whether you're in the mood or not.
Allocate time for it.
And it means you have to take pride in what you do, and look at it from a serious point of view. And I think if you take being a parent from that perspective, that's a job that you want to do your best at, so that the product, so to speak, is healthy, well-adjusted children.
Sure.
Then it is a job, but it's a great job. It's
the good with the bad.
Absolutely.
Right? When you're a young parent, the bad's like, oh, I got to change these diapers, right? And the good is I get to play with the baby.
Or I have to get up at 2 in the morning and I'm not getting enough sleep, and there's all different perils with the young job.
Sure.
And as you get older, there's different perils. You're not sleeping because now they're out with their friends and it's 12 o'clock at night and you're worried about them. And
we were just talking a little bit about the different phases.
Yeah.
And, about how your children need you in a different way. Right?
Yep.
So when they're young, right, they need you for everything, right? They need you to sustain life for them, right?
Basically.
You're giving them food,
when they're
you're
infants,
giving them
sure.
shelter, right? As they grow up, you need to continue to feed them, and you need to give them a good environment to live in, and help them with their schoolwork. And then as they get older, and my children are getting older, your children are getting older as well. Mine are a little bit older, and they need you in a different way.
That's
maybe
right.
Directions on the parkway, or advice on
or just
on a job,
or life is getting serious, and they're not really sure how to deal with the situation, and that can be
help with moving their furniture into an apartment or something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and that can be just as important, if not more important. I mean, when you're little, you teach them how to use a spoon,
right?
And that's important. But if you're teaching them how to maneuver through some of the difficult challenges as a young adult does, that could be just as important, because one false move at that point, one bad career move, it could mean years of, heartache.
Right.
So it's all involved.
And I was saying I kind of like it. I like the, that the phone call, the question. I'm happy that, my son, my daughter, they'll give a call to myself or my wife and ask us something, because they do have a lot of choices. There's friends at work, there's their bosses at work, there's their friends at home, and then there's us.
Right.
And when they call you and they ask you for something, about whether it's advice or some help on something, that's a compliment. That's a compliment.
Absolutely.
That they're still very much into what you have to say, and they appreciate your wisdom, and they trust you enough to ask and for guidance and things like that.
One of the greatest
feelings. It is a great feeling. You know,
Yep.
hopefully, I can't say hopefully, you know, you did something well or not, but the point is that they're still coming back at an older age and asking for some help. It's
And not just
it's really a
not
wonderful
just when they're
feeling.
asking for help. The feeling is when they're going somewhere fun. We're going to a concert. We're going to a show. We're going to do this.
Right.
Why don't you come with
Why
us?
don't you come with-
That they want you.
I don't know
to
if
be
I,
there.
I don't know if I would have taken my father to a Springsteen concert. But you know, now that I'm older, I'm thinking to myself, I should have asked him because maybe
Sure.
he would have gone.
But isn't
you know?
that great that they want to spend time
But-
with you still?
Yeah.
Social time. That's
Yeah.
I think that's a testament to that you've been able to have a good relationship where you have to be the parent first. And I think that's what happens sometimes is parents get caught up in the fact that they want to be their kid's friend so badly that they're not the parent first.
Sure.
And that's a problem spot is if they're not the parent first, being a friend. Kids have friends. They
Right.
need parents. So if you have to choose between one or the other, you have to be a parent first. You know,
Right.
if you can do both, that's awesome. But you got to be the parent first, and then hopefully that will lead into the friendship part too, because they need a parent. They need guidelines.
Right. And get them involved when, you know, age-appropriate things for them come about. Okay, so obviously when they're younger, you know, 5, 6 years old, you know, they really can't get tied into helping you make a decision on where to get your car repaired. But at 25 or 23 years old, okay, that's a great decision for them to be involved with, even though it doesn't have anything to do with them or their car at the time.
Right.
Okay, because it helps them understand, you know, they're going to have a car. They're going to be making a decision about that. So it helps them, you know, make good decisions if they see you making good decisions and you keep them involved. You know, I just quickly, I just had a transmission done on my car. We just talked about that a little bit. You had a transmission done on
right,
your
you had
car.
a transmission done.
Okay, so I called. I'm a guy who likes to shop around a little bit. Okay, that's my profession. That's what I do
Right.
for a living, right? Okay, and negotiate, right? So I call about getting my transmission looked at. So my
Now,
path,
did you call one place or you called several places?
well, my path was I had a connection at the dealership for the car.
Okay.
So I asked the dealership to look at my vehicle and diagnose my problem. Not everybody has access to that. That would
Okay.
normally cost you money, but it didn't cost me money. So they came back and they said, yeah, you got a transmission problem. It's this, 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 and this. Okay. So I took that information and I called AMCO, Lee Miles, Gibraltar, Amityville
All the big
Transmission.
names, and then some.
And then some local guys. So I called 4 or 5 guys and I said, listen, I've got this problem. And the responses from those guys were varied. From, yeah, it doesn't matter what that says, bring it in and we'll tell you what we need to do, and it's going to cost at least $2,300. To, yeah, I understand that, I know a little bit about that transmission, but I really don't want to quote over the phone, we'd have to test drive it. To, I work on this transmission often. Our neighborhood happens to have a lot of foreign cars in it. There's 7 updates on this transmission. These are the 7 updates. We also have a retrofit kit that increases the fluid. And I got a guy on the phone who knew so much about this tranny, or at least to me he did. I didn't know, right?
Right.
Okay. But had a plan going in. And he shoots me a great price. And I said to myself, I'm going to this guy. He had a plan. He knew my tranny. He was, you know, just really helpful on the phone and friendly. I'm like, this is the guy I want working on my car. So I did. I looked at what everyone was offering me. I actually went to a couple of places, and I decided to go to this guy anyway. 40 miles from my home. There are probably 150 transmission places
Between your home.
between my home and this guy. And I went 40 miles, you know. So my son says, I'll drive you to the transmission place. I was like, great. So we get up early Saturday morning and we drive out 40 miles to the transmission place. We pull over and he's like, where the heck is this place? We've been driving for an hour. You know, must have played
You're gonna
past
need
a
a new
million
transmission by the time
places.
you get
I know. And I said, well, this is why I chose this guy. So, of course, he thought I was crazy. And I'll be honest with you, I was beginning to think I was crazy. Because I'm like,
What's
you
the
know,
difference?
even if I probably saved $400 or $500, maybe I could have got it cheaper. I don't know. But anyway, point is, on the way back, we talk a little bit about this transmission. So him and I are in the car, and I explained my story to him. And I said, you know, maybe I shouldn't have gone 40 miles away. Because now if something goes wrong, I got to bring it back 40 miles.
Right.
And then I have to come back to pick it up, which is 40 miles. So I need another ride out there to go pick it up. So
what you saved, you spent in gas.
right. So now I have the car back, and then thank God, transmission is running fine. I do have to bring it back for an inspection afterwards. Did you have to bring yours back for a 200-mile or 300-mile inspection afterwards? They just go over
Was I
everything.
supposed to? Or
Yeah, well, you're supposed to.
Supposed to, yes.
You got to do that.
All they do is top off the fluid.
Well, I got to bring it back.
You're going to drive
He
40
says he's
miles so they can top off the
He's
fluid?
going to put it in the machine, and he's going to take more readouts on it. At least that's what they tell me. Anyway.
He's going to add transmission fluid, Tony. That's what he's going to do. He's going to look at the dipstick. If it needs more, he's going to put some in. You're going to drive 40 miles for that?
So here's my point of this very long story. The point is not the fact that I've got my transmission and it worked out and all that. The fact that my 25-year-old came with me on this quest,
Right.
understood the development of how I got there, what the decision, how the decision was made, and the principles of the decision. And then he also saw a little bit of self-doubt in the end, whether this was really the right thing to do or not. So I think that sometimes children think that parents are perfect. You know, a lot of times they think they're so imperfect.
Right, they think they're
Okay,
totally
But then again,
wrong
I
all the
also
time.
think that sometimes they're like, well, we can't live up to my parent because he's always right, or he makes right decisions or whatever. Well, sometimes the decisions we make aren't perfect.
Right.
And if you bring your children in on those decisions that are age appropriate for them, and they get involved, not only do they understand the process, but they also see that sometimes you don't make a right decision, and there's a plan B or a plan C or something like that, and you need to be able to work through that. So it's a lesson. Maybe it was a lesson learned for both of us.
Yeah, I bet. But in the same vein, another thing that I'm a fan of is, and I think as adults we don't tend to do this as much as we should, if there's a decision to be made and you don't know as much as you think you should know about it, and you know that your kids do, use them to help you make the decision.
Sure.
You know what? There's certain things. Computers. My kids know more than I do about computers. I'm looking to get a computer. What should I do? They light up. It's like, you're coming to me for advice now? And I think that's a good thing to do, is show them that you respect what they know, that you don't know everything.
It's a
that
very important
I
stage
know
in
that
their
you know
development.
more than me about this, and I want you to help me with this. I want you to show me, and that's just as important.
For
Absolutely.
them. It shows, it builds your relationship with them. It really takes your relationship to a very different level now, where in that particular subject, they're either even or maybe even a little ahead of you. And that really builds their character.
Them knowing that you respect that and you recognize that they are worthy of all this stuff, and that they're not just a little kid, that they do have a say, they know a lot, that they can be an important part of the decision process. They love doing that.
I think they very much look for that kind of recognition from their parents.
Absolutely.
I think they really do. And it's really not so hard to give it to them.
I think
it's very different than saying, hey, you
we
did a
should
good
do it
job
more
on
often
that
than we
test.
do. Right.
That is important as well.
It is.
Okay, that's important
Definitely
as well.
is.
But this is just, it's different. And so that's what I've done since March 14th.
That's it?
No, I've done a few more things.
We've had a lot going on.
We've had a lot of things going on.
Last week I was in Nashville. Actually,
Okay.
I was speaking at a conference down in Nashville.
I've never been to Nashville. What kind of city is it?
Nashville is it's a fun city. It's small.
Is it old?
It's old, yeah. It's an old city. It's small. They bill themselves as, and they really relish the moniker of Music Capital USA. the Music City, USA.
Do
It's
they have
all-
a downtown like a mini
Yep.
Manhattan, super high-rise buildings, or they don't
There's
have a
no
lot of
super
business?
high-rise buildings. There's a
Okay.
couple. Actually, the newest building is an AT&T building. They call it the Batman building because there's two spires on it that look like the ears on the Batman
Oh, okay.
mask. So, so not a lot of high-rise buildings, but it's a pretty large town. And when they say it's Music City, it is. You walk down the main Broadway in downtown Nashville, and every other store is either a restaurant or a bar with live music. There's live music everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I found out is none of the bands there get paid to play at the place.
Nobody
So
gets
if I have,
paid?
no. If I have a bar or a
What do
restaurant,
they just want to get discovered?
they work on tips, only tips.
Oh, okay.
So if I want to play in your establishment, or I have an establishment you want to play here, go ahead, because I don't have to pay you. So that's why there's so many of them, because the owner of the restaurant isn't paying for that. They're just giving you a spot to use, and then they're making their money from the patrons who come in and they donate.
Okay.
But music everywhere, most of it country.
So they expect you to tip.
Yeah, well, they do.
I mean, we go to a restaurant up here and they have a guy who plays the piano or something like that. You don't.
You don't tip
I mean,
unless you ask for a song, right?
Unless you
No,
ask for a
there you're kind of expected to throw a couple dollars into the guitar case as you're leaving.
song. Okay.
But most of it's country music, vast majority, and any kind, from the old honky-tonk country to bluegrass to the new wave of country music.
Did you
which
see
is,
anybody like Dolly Parton or? I mean, is she Nashville or no? Or
She is Nashville. The one group we saw when we went to the Grand Ole Opry was, I guess the biggest name was Little Big Town. They're a popular group. They sing a song Pontoon and Your Side of the Bed, and there's a couple of songs. But
I listen to country now. They have country now in New York again.
yeah, finally.
94.7. I
So
think
this
it is.
was Little Big Town on the Pontoon. It's a popular song. You
Really?
would know it. Then here's another thing. My wife had a celebrity moment. We're flying out of LaGuardia, and there's a new show on television called Nashville. Have you seen it? It's
No.
about the country music industry, all the things that go on the back of the industry, and it's about the music, but also about the politics and all the stuff that goes on. One of the young actors on the show, Sam Palladio, that's the actor's name, he's actually English, but he plays a young, rising country star on the show.
No accent.
Not on the show. Well, he has a country accent, but his British accent is gone. So we're in LaGuardia, waiting for our plane, and my wife goes to me, "You know who that is?" And I look over. I see a young guy with a kind of fancy hairdo and T-shirt and a guitar in his hand. I'm like, "No, that's Sam Palladio. He plays on the show Nashville." Okay. So
She knows these people.
they call for first class seating and preferred seating, and they get on the plane, and then we're loading. And it's a small plane, maybe 40 seats. We're going, and I'm looking at the seats, looking at the numbers, looking at who's sitting there, and I see Sam Palladio, and I realize, honey, do you know who you're going to be sitting next to the whole trip to Nashville?
No
And she
kidding.
sat directly across from this guy the whole trip to Nashville.
Wow. Did you
So-
talk to him?
A little bit. We talked a little bit. You don't want to. Actually, it was funny. Two guys in front of us. Typical New Yorkers. Typical New Yorkers. They're like, we're going to
40 people,
Nashville.
that's a small plane.
It is a small plane. We're going to Nashville. It's on our bucket list. And these are two older guys with their wives, and they're kind of loud, and they're having the little cocktails at 12 in the noon. And this, "Hey, Sam, how you doing?" They're waving and taking pictures of him. And then he's sitting there, and 2 rows ahead, they're talking about him. He turns to, like, I don't know if he was saying it to us directly or to the girl next to him, and goes, "They realize I can hear them, right?" Because they were talking about him like he wasn't on the plane anymore. It was pretty funny. So, and then we ended up seeing him play at the Grand Ole Opry also. So it was a fun trip.
Wow.
If you don't like the music scene, you don't like live music, country music, we went to the Country Music Hall of Fame. If that's not your thing, then Nashville isn't a city for you. But if you like that type of stuff, it's a great city. I'd recommend it anytime. Clean, safe. I never felt like I was in a bad part of town.
Right.
It was a nice, clean, great place to go. So, Nashville, if you're looking for a fun trip, not too expensive. I mean, any city is a city.
Right.
And the hotel that we stayed in had hotel-like prices, but the city itself, not expensive. Got some good barbecue over there. So it was nice.
Pretty nice.
Nice place to go.
That's good.
Not China, but.
Not China.
Are you going back to China this year?
I have no plans going to go back to Asia for anything this year.
Okay.
You know, we'll see. May change, but we'll see.
But
I was in Potsdam.
Potsdam.
Potsdam, New York.
That is in the middle of nowhere.
Like Canton, yeah. That is that. As a matter of fact, we're about 30 miles past the sign that says you're at nowhere.
Yeah, you've just passed the middle.
You pass nowhere, and then you just go 30 more miles, and you're in Potsdam.
Right. Now you went there because your son was looking for a job.
My
Possibly.
son. Yeah, my son got a opportunity for a physical, for a job. But yeah, but anyway, just the town was there just wasn't much, man.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like all, uppity city-ish, but there was like not even a Starbucks or anything. There was, not that I love Starbucks because I really don't.
You don't.
But that's kind of like the measure. I don't want to say Starbucks. The fast foods restaurant. It's a measure of where populations are, right?
Yeah.
Because they do a study.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the McDonald's and things like that.
If there's
they
enough
do the study,
people.
and if there's enough people, they build a McDonald's or a Starbucks
Right.
or a Subway or whatever. And it was like, you didn't even see those places. You're like, this has to be nowhere. Because they put those damn things everywhere.
The diner and the post office and the police station were all in the same building.
Everything. I was a little shocked. And New York, I lived in New York all my life, and it is a big state, and I've been to many places in New York, but it took 8 hours. I mean, really took 8 hours to get there.
That's a lot. And you did it late. You left
I could have
Long
been
Island
I
at
could have
8.
been in Ohio in 8 hours.
Could have been in Ohio.
In 8 hours. Not that I want to go to Ohio or even Cleveland these days with the crazy kidnappings that are going on.
Can you believe that?
That's crazy, man.
See, now I have two
Cleveland.
feelings about that. First of all, how can that happen in this day and age? But second of all, it gives hope to some of these people that are still looking for a loved one years
Yeah.
later. That the chances are it's not going to turn out well, but sometimes it does. If you don't know what we're talking about,
And it was
why don't you
Cleveland.
explain
You
it a
think
little
Cleveland is safe?
What happened?
In the last couple of days, they found that there was 3 girls, and one of the girls had broken free somehow and ran across the street and made a 911 phone call and explained that she has been in captivity for 10 years.
So these girls went missing 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Apparently they were kidnapped somewhere within a few miles of where they were, and they were being held hostage in a home, chained, and they were mistreated, raped.
One of them had a child
One
from
woman had a child. Apparently, the other women, there were several
Miscarriages, yeah.
miscarriages. So obviously they were sexually abused over these 10 years, and they were kept in. And neighbors, when you look at this house and you look at where the people live, they're no further than my neighbors.
I agree. Isn't that? I don't understand how that happened. I mean, I don't.
I don't know what goes on in all my neighbors' houses.
I'm not trying to say
I mean, I
that the
have to
neighbors
admit
missed something, because I don't believe they missed
Yeah.
anything, but that this is happening literally next door to someone who's living there. I would like to think that if that was happening in the house next to me, I would know it. I like to think
Right.
that, because I think I'm observant enough, but obviously the people weren't unobservant. They just, this captor who was so good at, and not only was he good at, apparently the 3 men that were living there, only one of them was charged. The other 2, they don't think had anything to do with the captivity.
Come on,
I mean,
10 years. They don't know these people were chained up.
I believe they're guilty because they didn't do anything about it. But they weren't the perpetrators of the crimes. They weren't raping the girls. They weren't imprisoning them. They just didn't do anything to help them. So they're guilty by association, but they haven't been arrested yet. Some people
Terrible.
are saying
This girl's mom went to a grave thinking that her mother was
yeah,
her
she
daughter
died
was
thinking
dead.
her daughter was dead. Yep.
Just
Someone said the brothers of this man are a little bit, they have some mental illness issues, so
Simpler.
that maybe they weren't able to. I'm not, we're going to hear a lot more about this,
Right.
but it's just amazing. And did you see the story of the hero?
Cleveland. If you're kidnapping somebody, don't go to Cleveland. It's great,
Well,
Cleveland.
let's not make fun of
This doesn't make any.
Cleveland.
This doesn't make any sense. It seems like a nice place.
That's
I mean,
good backtracking right there.
I could understand. No, I'm just saying. I can understand if you're in a big city or something. Oh, I don't know how
Cleveland
big
is a big
is it a big
city.
city? I
It's a
don't
big
know.
city.
Is it a big city,
Very
Christine?
big.
Have you ever been to Cleveland? I hear it rocks.
Cleveland rocks. But it is.
It just blows my mind
Now-
that these people, 10 years in captivity, and you know what? I'm going to tell every single one of you people out there, if you have daughters, teach them self-defense. And I'm going to run home and teach my daughter self-defense because maybe I didn't do that either. Okay?
You
But
don't know self-defense. How are you going to teach you?
I don't know. Send them for a class. Send them
Yeah,
for karate.
I would have someone else
Christine,
teach you.
Are you a black belt?
No.
Are you a brown belt? She
can kick
some
ass,
butt.
but-
She's tough. She's tough. Christine's tough. She wears suspenders. That's tough.
That's it.
But anyway, it's crazy
It is.
that in 10 years, you would think they had an opportunity to escape
You would
or
think.
kill them or do
You would
something.
think.
I don't know.
But
It's
even
just-
if they did have a slight opportunity, the fear that goes along with that, they're terrified about what could happen.
you can't get out of the house,
The
right?
one of them
That
who got
door
up
is
enough
bolted.
nerve. Did you see the guy who helped out? Did you see the videos of the guy who helped rescue them?
Yeah.
What a breath of fresh
It's
air. This
great,
guy
man.
is just, I don't care what, he does not try to be politically correct.
No.
He's out there.
He said it, man.
And you know what? He is a hero.
He says, something's wrong. That girl came running over to my house. He goes, and that just doesn't
he
happen
says when
in
a
Cleveland.
little white, I think he said when a little white girl runs into the arms of a black man.
You know
But,
something's
you know,
wrong. And
regardless of all
I
that
under-
stuff he's saying.
No, but I
Here's a
understand what
guy.
he means. This person was so frightened that she just ran to a complete stranger. And maybe he looks at himself and he says, I'm a scary looking guy. So who the hell would
And in
come
this
run at
day
me?
and age, for me to go break into
Yeah.
someone's house and kick down a door, you know, he said, I'm doing this because I think someone needs help. And he
Right.
did it because he thought someone needs help. And yes, he is a hero because of that.
Sure.
He just helped out, didn't think anything was in it for him. Someone needed help. And that's what he did. So good for you.
Crazy.
But that's happened. Talk about
But,
crazy.
but I keep an eye on your neighbors, for God's sakes. I mean, I am.
I'm watching you, Scott. No, I'm teasing. Scott's a good guy. What else has happened since? Oh, that I know we were talking a little bit. We haven't had a show since this whole incident in Boston.
What's the marathon?
The bombing and that was a very, I don't know how it unfolded in your life, but I was leaving work on a Monday afternoon, going from my one job to the university where I teach at, and I heard on the radio a little bit. There was a bombing in Boston at the marathon, and I heard just a little bit about it. So I get to the school and I mentioned that I heard it on the radio, and one of the other professors, her son lives in Boston, so she got a little worried and called him. And over the next few hours, just the information that was coming in, it almost seemed surreal, like what was happening. And then they're looking for him. Next thing you know, the whole city of Boston is just shut down.
Yeah. Yeah.
These
Everything,
two
flights,
men-
traffic, everything.
Crippled, totally crippled a whole city.
Yeah.
No one was leaving the house. No one was going to school or work or anything
Yeah.
because of these two guys. It's just, and then it was over. Like that. They caught the one, they killed the one, they caught the other. What do you think of that? I mean, does that worry you that this could be going on in a lot more places, or do you think this is more like an isolated?
You know what? I think that it's just not possible to defend neighborhood, country, city
I agree.
from one or two
I
or
agree.
three crazy people, okay, that are acting somewhat independent.
I agree.
Now, from what we hear,
Mm-hmm.
the oldest brother was an extremist. And
Only
he-
recently, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And he learned a lot of stuff on the internet, and he went and met with these people and maybe did some training, but they pretty much acted alone, not like some, person from another area, another country somewhere
Right.
had said, here's the plan and you're going to carry it out.
They weren't part of a large organized group that
Right.
did this. And
Right.
I agree that makes me feel a little more comfortable.
Just hard for us to defend against that.
Right.
Now,
Well, here's a question.
people are saying, oh, the FBI knew about them.
Well, that's just it.
The Russians told us, the
Several
Chechens told
times.
us.
Several times. Do you think they should be held a little more responsible for that?
First of all, we don't live in a country where we can go out and arrest or detain people because we don't like
I
the
agree.
way
I don't think
they
we should.
practice.
Right.
So how much could they have done? I'm not familiar enough with the laws and what we can do today to tell you what they could have done.
Right.
But you know, you just can't arrest and lock up everyone that's suspicious.
No, I
much
agree.
as I mean, as much as it sounds like something what we should do, and you can't throw everyone out of the country that's not a citizen, because that isn't
They
what
were
we are.
citizens, though. They became citizens.
They became citizens, and then apparently they were on some kind of relief from the government assistance at some
Right.
point
They were
in their
getting
life.
Medicaid.
They were granted access to schools on some level of assistance, or maybe they got some special treatment because they were foreigners.
Well, the younger brother who's still alive, he was in college.
Was in college.
Yes.
But I understand even his high school, the high school that he went to, he got some kind of pass in getting into that school.
Okay,
for
that
some
I didn't
reason.
hear.
I'm not sure exactly how it works. But I think we have to begin to evaluate those plans and say, you know what, let's make things available to our citizens, the people who are born here, the natural citizens here, and let's grow that base, and let's develop those people. And the more of those people, and the more development, and the more people are into helping our government and supporting our government, the less of these rogues will be out there. My humble opinion, okay? But if I make it so easy for everyone who doesn't have our ideals, our principles, our sense of pride in our country, and our devotion to our freedoms, okay, and what we believe in as a country, if we make it so open and make it so advantageous for them to come here, and still allow them to bring their beliefs from the outside that are counter to our beliefs, well then, maybe we're making a little bit of a mistake there.
I agree.
They pledged their citizenship. They were there. They showed
right.
that picture.
So how can
they're somewhere in this crowd of everyone getting their
right.
citizenship.
If they
those words meant nothing to them, obviously.
Obviously, they didn't live by what they were saying, so there was a falseness there. Now you're saying you can't prevent this. How about? And I think this becomes a little scary, because then you start to get into this is Big Brother watching everything. But can you hold some responsibility? Not responsibility, I shouldn't say that they're responsible for the actions of these guys, but might some of the vendors have a little bit of an obligation to call either the police or some type of security and say, you know what, this college student just bought tons of insecticide or something, or these purchases of materials that are out of the ordinary, that are suspicious because it might be something, you have these two young guys that buy 20 pressure cookers.
You know what? I think so too. The pressure cookers, you get 5 people in your family, everyone buys one, you're not going to figure that out.
Right.
The ingredients to make the bomb, I'm not sure exactly what they used, but I get the concept.
Right.
The concept is that if it's gunpowder, okay, there's got to be some better way we can handle the distribution and sale of gunpowder.
Right.
Just veering off that.
Or
for
just
one
someone
moment.
to say, if they buy this, take a look at this. Is this okay?
Just veering off that for one moment. I go to an airport,
Right.
okay, and I see the people taking my ticket, and the people looking at the screen, and once you're in the security area, the people behind the counter, okay, they're all they're all non-Americans. Not that I think every single American should have those jobs, but what kind of security do we have if we put people behind the
So you think
counter
airport
in the
security
most
should be-
secure area that have ties to foreign countries? Do you know what I'm saying?
So make that area more secure.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there hasn't been any incidents there, but
No.
that makes me believe
Right.
that
If
that seems like a weak link in the chain
Right.
to me.
If you're
I
on
mean,
the
I don't wanna
outside
sound
trying to
like
get
I don't wanna
to
sound like a
plant
bigot
something
or
on
a
a plane,
racist.
what's better than having a guy who's loading the plane on your side? I get it.
You know what I mean?
We just got word that apparently certain chemicals, if they're bought in certain amounts, are supposed to be, you're supposed to notify some federal organization. Is that all chemicals or only certain amounts of certain chemicals? Okay, certain amounts of certain chemicals.
Certain amounts of certain chemicals. Okay.
Because look what chemicals can do. See what that pesticide did to that factory down in Texas? Took out the whole town.
You know, there's a lot of ways to make a bomb, right? And if you
Yes.
go on the internet, you're going to find a million ways to make a bomb. Can the government control that? I'm sure they can in some way.
Well, they're trying now.
Okay.
They're talking to like Google and Bing and some of the largest search engines to be able to track some of those, people who go to, say, that one website where they were showing how to make this bomb because it's an Al-Qaeda sponsored website.
Sure.
But there really is no good way to track that still.
Well, I'll tell you what.
No
if-
easy way, at least.
If you have, if you want to go to a how to make a bomb website, okay, put in your driver's license.
Something. I mean,
Okay.
we get pop-ups all the time. We
now
visit a
if the
golf
driver's
site.
license, if the
and now
driver's
every
license
time I
shows
go to
up
a-
45 times on bomb sites,
Right.
okay,
It should alert someone.
send the guy a letter. I don't
Someone
know, or
come
the
knocking
girl
on
or
the
whatever.
door,
I
just,
don't know. And
what's
say,
your interest in
yeah,
bombs?
we can teach you about bombs if you want
Right.
to come and join the army, baby.
Or something,
Come
yeah.
on, man. We'll teach you how to blow up bridges. All right, but you know what I'm saying?
I agree.
I don't know if that's just it's oversimplified. I mean, it's a very simple solution that to a complex issue. But I'm just saying, if you're under 18,
Right.
you're not getting on the bomb site.
Right.
And I'm a parent, and I'm going to say I vote for that.
Yeah.
My less than 18-year-old, and I know I'm censoring his,
Rights,
his
but
freedoms. I
yeah.
get it. I'm censoring his freedoms. But you know what? Under 18, he shouldn't have the same freedoms I have.
Right. Now, on the other hand, I totally believe, and I know from speaking to people who are in law enforcement and stuff, that this is definitely true. There are thousands of incidences like the Boston bombing that could have happened that are thwarted early on because of things that are in place, because someone noticed someone was doing something
Right.
and they watch for a little while and step in before it ever gets out of the planning stage. So they're making arrests and they're really stopping things, even on a small level, like the Boston Marathon bombing, from happening because of things we've put in place since 9/11. So we're not saying the police aren't doing their
Right.
job. They really
I think it's
are.
working. What we're doing
really
is working.
Obviously,
but like I
it's
said
not
when we
perfect.
started the conversation,
You can't stop all of it.
Can't stop them all.
You're
How
right.
about the Timothy McVeigh?
Right, our homegrown
Okay.
terrorist.
Our, U.S. citizen, born, raised here.
And his
Something-
issue was the government, taxes
just
and the
a
government
silicon
itself.
chip in his brain, just like the
Who are
Boomtown
you, the
Rats,
Boomtown Rat?
just flipped.
Got
And-
switched
and
to overload.
Switched to
huh?
overload, and he went off and did something.
Yes, you did.
And that's what he did. And that is going to happen. And the more people we have in this country, the more likely, those events will happen, because it's a very, very teeny percentage. Okay.
And we always profess our freedom, and the more you take away the freedom to try and prevent that, it's a fine line we have to walk, because we want our freedoms, but we also want to be safe, and sometimes they overlap, and you can't have both. So
Right.
I have to ask, we're talking about different things for the show. What is fingernail grown?
Fingernail, because I wanted to know what happens. What happens is March 14th.
And I see fingernails. So I have to ask. What
My fingernail fell off because I hit it with a hammer. Christine, it's true. I hit it with a hammer. I was walking around with a black fingernail for months.
Let me see.
All right, you're a doctor. Look at my fingernail.
The camera get that? It is a newly grown fingernail.
It's actually coming in two stages.
Yeah,
it's like the first one was kind of like not the best fingernail, and then the second one's coming in
nice,
super
pretty
strong.
one, huh?
It's coming in. So I've got this little freaky fingernail that's happening.
You'll have
here.
it. You'll be ready to whack it with another hammer in no time.
I had a black one. I had a black fingernail on here, and I went down to. I haven't seen you since I was in Florida, and I played golf in Florida. That was February.
Yes.
Okay, so I was like, I don't want this thing to fall off because I didn't want it to affect my crappy golf swing. So it would have made it even more crappier. Right. Okay, and somehow, someplace, on my way back, I caught it on something like my suitcase or something in the airport, and it lifted it, and it almost came off. And by the time I got home, my fingernail had come off. It didn't hurt anyway. I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to hurt. Didn't hurt anyway.
It depends how much of the bed is exposed.
Yeah, and under there was a little baby fingernail trying to grow.
Cute little fingernail.
So you want to know this was under the what happened to me since March 14th.
And it's a fingernail growing in.
And it's a wonderful thing. So all those people with damaged fingernails, you know, those plumbers and electricians and carpenters and framers that you hit your finger, have faith and hope your nail will grow back.
Yes, it will.
It will. Christine? What? I'm not really ready to go to Nails and Relaxation or whatever the name of the nail place is next door, Ming's Nails. I'm not ready to go have my
not yet.
Manicure done. Well, you know what? They should only charge me, 90% of the actual cost, right? 9/10 of the cost. Because there's one thing they're not going to do. They're just not going to do it.
You know what else happened in New York? I don't know about you, but I'm just so fed up with this.
The pollen count.
Well, that too.
All right.
But
okay.
over the past 2 weeks in the downstate New York City area, there have been, 6 or 7 politicians that have been arrested for doing sometimes things that they were professing to be against.
There was a thing on yesterday. Is that
yeah, he was arrested. The state senator was arrested for taking all this bribe money, and he was in charge of the ethics committee.
And he was in charge of the ethics committee.
He was the chair of the ethics committee, and now he was arrested for bribery.
Maybe it was like a Pete Townsend thing where I was on the child pornography site
to try and prevent
because I wanted to try to prevent it. So he was taking bribes,
right?
Because
he wanted to see how to prevent.
He wanted to get to the to the underground.
And the way they caught all these guys was they put a wire on one of the other ones who was already indicted.
On a woman.
Yes.
On a woman. She wore the wire.
She wore the wire. And they wonder why the general public...
And she had places to hide that wire. She could have put a whole spool she could have hit.
She had a reel-to-reel machine.
Christine.
She had a reel-to-reel machine on her.
I don't know where they put that wire, but there was plenty of places.
But, how do they expect the general public to respect politicians and to really believe when we vote for someone that you're going to speak for me and represent me in the government when all they're really in is for themselves?
Term limits, no exceptions. It's okay to elect a guy that's a crook. It happens.
But it's not okay to elect him twice.
It's not sinful.
Right.
Right. But to put something in place that allows him to be a crook for 30 years and be a career politician, that's sinful.
Okay, but then what about we happen to have a local politician who I happen to really like, even though he represents a different party than I'm in. He's a Democrat.
He could be a crook.
But you know what? It hasn't come out that he is.
All right.
And I think the time he's been there, he has represented me in the state government remarkably well. Everything he's done, I think he's a great stand-up guy, and that's the one I want to represent me as long as he's able to. So for someone like him, term limits would be a bad thing. But by not having it, I think we tend to probably breed more of these guys who think, well, now that I'm elected, I can do whatever I want because I'm just going to keep getting reelected.
If he's a good politician, he does good, then he moves on to whatever the next role is. The next role could be controller.
Okay.
The next role could be tax collector. The next role could be whatever the next highest level official, assemblyman, or whatever.
Okay.
Okay,
So if the
and then
Assembly
go for that.
different will go to the Senate. Or
Local offices. If you're talking about local mayor of Park Slope.
I'm talking more of a state level.
Well, local guys, put them in there for 4, 5, or 6 years.
Right.
Local governments, like your township, really doesn't have a lot of money to spend on electoral expenses.
No, but
changing
they can cause a lot of havoc in a short time by spending money poorly in
but those guys,
municipalities that don't have a lot of money.
But a senator or a congressman that's been a congressman for 30 years,
right?
Come on.
And the funny part is, what are we waiting for now? We're waiting for tomorrow's paper to come out to see who's next.
Right.
Because you know it's not over. You know there's going to be more, and it's really sad.
Do you call that cheating?
Absolutely.
There's big cheats, little cheats. There's cheats. We talked a little bit about cheats.
I see where you're going with this because we're almost out of time, but I think that's a good topic. To do a show about is cheating, and I mean in life. I had some incidents.
Is it going to be Dear Dad's dishonesty show?
Well, how it started is at the school there was some academic dishonesty going on, and it's what to do about that and how it can impact so many different people and other people's views of it. So I think it's probably more than an 8-minute conversation. But think about your thoughts on cheating. Is it ever acceptable? Is cheating ever right? That was one of the questions that came up where the person I was talking to, they said, yes, sometimes cheating's right. Cheating to me is always wrong. Does it happen? Do people do it? Is it sometimes have an explanation that goes along with it that you can tend to overlook it a little more? Yes, but is it ever the right thing to teach someone to do? No. It's always wrong, but sometimes it's a little more understandable and a little more forgivable, but it's still wrong. And the person I was talking to didn't agree with that. You know, doing things that the kids are seeing, their idea was more, it's only wrong if you get caught.
Right.
It's not wrong doing it, it's just wrong if you get caught doing it, which I don't understand.
So in her eyes, if everyone in the class had the answers to the test, and the one person or the two persons who did not take those answers and did their own and ended up with a lesser grade,
right,
that it would have been okay for those two people to cheat because everyone cheated.
Yes.
And it was unfair.
That isn't how it went, but that's a different...
And it would be unfair for the people who got the lower grade to end up with the lower grade because they should have cheated with everyone else.
That's kind of the thought that was going in there.
The kind of the thought that they had. Okay.
And there's cheating, so we'll talk about that because there's cheating on so many levels. And does it matter the situation?
Is cheating on your diet?
Does cheating on a diet, cheating on a test, cheating in your job, cheating on your spouse, are they all the same?
Cheating on your taxes.
Cheating on your taxes. You know, there's so many different ways, and different situations.
You could justify things like that. You could say,
that's what I'm saying.
Nordstrom's is not gonna miss the fact that I paid $1.99 for this when it really should have been $11.99.
The government gets enough of my money. The fact that I bought something on the internet and didn't pay sales tax.
And didn't pay my sales tax on it. They're not going to miss that, or I'm not going to tell them. But that's cheating.
That is cheating. And is it wrong? Yes, it's wrong. Do people do it all the time? Absolutely. And is that as wrong as stealing a $5 item from the local hardware store, the guy who's struggling to make it?
Sure.
Is that more wrong to do? You see what I'm saying? Same situation. You stole $10 from the government, and you stole a $10 piece from the mom and pop store, and who's barely making it as it is one more wrong than the other?
I wonder.
Because in essence, it's exactly the same thing.
I wonder if we could have a challenge out there, and say, let's pick some people and see how many days they can go without cheating on anything.
At all. That would be tough.
Because I think to a degree, everybody probably does all those things we just said. Not everyone, but to a degree.
Cheating on yourself, cheating on your diet, cheating on, there's like just cheating on thoughts and actions and not doing what you wanted to do. So that's a little different kind of cheating in my book. Like if you're say you're going to stick to this diet and you don't, is that really cheating versus the real concrete definition of cheating? That's well, we're going to talk about that next week.
All right.
That's our show for next week.
Not like cheating in Monopoly.
Well, how about that?
Like
you're playing a game.
You're counting 5, but you actually count 7 so you can get into the community chest or whatever it is.
You're playing Candyland with your 4-year-old, and you see them cheat to try and win the game. Should you point that out, or should you let them get away with it? Or is that teaching them that cheating's okay?
I'm a pointer out there. I would say no. You didn't count 5. You counted 6.
Some people let them get away with it, but then you're teaching them that that's okay to do.
Dad,
see?
no. You got it.
Perfect example right there.
You got to go to 5.
Yeah.
5. That's all.
Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about next week. Be prepared.
Or if you're going to let him
bring
cheat,
your big cheating.
Bring all my thoughts on cheating. All my thoughts on cheating. We got a few more minutes left.
We do have, just about 3 more minutes left. That girl's going to jail, apparently.
This Jodi Arias.
See, now I didn't follow the whole trial, but my mother watched the whole thing on television like it was a soap opera.
Really?
Loved it.
Like the OJ thing.
Yeah.
I think that started it for a lot of people.
And there hasn't been a trial really like that since, where everyone was riveted to it. But apparently this one was. They found her guilty.
She killed her boyfriend.
Well, she said it was self-defense, but I think she stabbed him like 60 times in self-defense.
She was just peeling an apple, and he backed into the knife 64 times.
That's it.
Yeah. It happens. So so she kills the boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Tried, found guilty.
Yes.
Now going to be sentenced.
She wants the death penalty.
And she says, I want the death penalty because my genes are that I have longevity in my genes, which means I'm going to live a long time, and I don't want to be miserable in jail for the rest of my life.
So now, here's the question. Is she really want to be killed? Does she really want the death penalty, or is this a ploy to not get the death penalty?
You don't know which way to go.
If you're the juror and she wants to die, do you give her what she wants? Or say, nope, you got to live a long life?
She's a manipulative little thing, isn't she?
Yeah, because then you have to say, wait a minute, don't try and pull that one on me. Okay. With a minute left, we do have to talk about one more thing. The New York Rangers, they won last night.
They won.
Tony, they won.
They tied it up. And Islanders won the night before.
The Islanders, you know what? I am not an Islander fan, as you know. And when they drew Pittsburgh,
you hate the Islanders?
I don't hate the Islanders.
Oh,
no.
okay.
I'm not an Islander hater. I'm not.
I don't hate the Rangers.
When the Rangers are out of it, if the Islanders are still in it, I'll root for them. But as long as we're both in it, I won't. I'm a Ranger fan. That's not true with the Devils. I dislike the Devils, but the Islanders I don't dislike.
They're Devils.
So anyway. The Islanders, when they drew Pittsburgh Penguins, I thought, oh man, yes, they're going to be gone. You guys are giving them a heck of a fight, I got to tell you. Much, much more than I thought. I thought 3-4 games and done. So it was going to be a blowout. But they're giving them one heck of a fight. So congratulations on your Islanders. The Rangers, I mean, there's a potential they could eventually play each other, and I think that is what I would love to see. because it brings
I don't
a
relish
certain
it. I don't
rivalry
relish,
to the
I
air.
don't relish the Mets playing the Yankees, and I don't relish.
See, I
the
like that as
Islanders
long as you
playing
have friends
If
that
it's-
can
if
keep
it's the
it
middle of the
friendly.
season, I don't care. But in the playoffs, I think the older, more established teams, like the big brother, has always got the advantage on the younger brother.
See, as the Ranger fan, I don't see that at all. Because I still remember when the Islanders were so dominant that we never stood a chance when we played them. And whenever we play the Islanders, even to this day where the team doesn't look anything like it did in the heyday, I still remember those days where names like Bossi and Trottier and Chico Resch just like crush me still. But I like to see it because
We are having
I
an
have friends that are
exciting
not.
time here. We got the Knicks.
The Knicks are doing great.
Nets are out of it.
Nets are out of
Nets
it.
are out of it.
The
We've
Mets,
got the
Yankees.
the Mets are playing.
They're playing.
They got you know, every 5 days they get an
Yeah, we
exciting
get
game
Harvey.
out of Harvey. Every 5 days.
Had a one hitter.
Somehow
and he didn't even get
the
a decision.
Yankees are they're still winning games, and they've got everyone's on the injured list.
Yeah.
You know, and then we've got the Islanders and the Rangers playing in playoffs. So we
It's
are
exciting.
very fortunate. We live in a pretty good sports town this
We do.
year. Some years everyone's out of it. Some years we got a bunch of guys in it.
Yep.
So right now we're
And if
we're
you even
looking
get
pretty
one or
good.
two playoff series,
This going
there's
Bruce
nothing
must
like
be
it. It's
doing good.
exciting. You're watching these games. You see, oh come on, and you're screaming and yelling, and you know my wife and daughter saying, "What are
Overtime
you
games
screaming
we had
for?"
everything.
Because it's exciting. It's a playoff game, and there's something about it. And even though you get all twisted up, you enjoy it. So we'll be back next week.
We're doing
we can
good.
Talk about some more stuff
Next week, Thursday, 6:30 to 7:30. Dear Dad, clear your schedule.
Right? Think
Turn
about
on
cheating,
your computer.
but don't cheat on the show.
Yeah. Don't bug out early, Macaroni Thursday. Boomers buddies.
That's it.
We'll see you guys
Now,
next
Woogie,
week.
Woogie Dip has to show up too. I don't know who
Woogie Dip?
is. Woogie Dip.
Woogie Dip is a regular.
Woogie Dip.
Woogie Dip.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good show. Have a good week. I mean,
good having a show again. We'll see
Christine,
you next week.
thank you
Christine,
very
thank you
much.
for everything.
fantastic. Chuck,
And-
Bonnie, thanks for letting us have our say on Thursday nights.
And we're out of here. Take us out, Chris.
Ciao.